gaming since I was a little kid, playing Atari, Nintendo, like everything. And pretty much everyone in esports kind of has that background as well. Where I'm a little different is I went into training, was kind of my background, what my master's is in instructional design, instructional technology. And when I was done with my master's program, I went and I was a government contractor. I worked for the government doing various types of training and simulation, but it all focused on game and virtual reality, and not really virtual reality in the early 2000s, but it was these big simulations with monitors and stuff. And I was designing a lot of games for the military, like flying Black Hawk helicopters, going into Iraq, and how to like map out a town, and then like all the communication stuff. And we developed like a huge simulation around it, or like what happens if 9/11 happens again. And like we were developing these huge simulations for like senators that would run through it. So that's kind of my background, how I originally got into like doing something gaming professionally. Went on to Penn State, worked on my doctorate there. And during that time, I was actually a developer for PBS, Public Broadcasting Services. And I was developing games in Flash for elementary kids. A lot of like stuff on various types of biology, like different kinds of flashcard games and just different kinds of games for kids that you would see on PBS website. So I spent a little time as a developer, and then I went on and started, teaching games and simulation class at UNCW during my, professorship, teaching games and simulations. And then I started to really get into the esports scene around like the time Twitch TV or Justin TV became Twitch. Around 2014, I was starting to really get into League of Legends. I was into Halo competitively in the early 2000s, then got into League of Legends, started playing League of Legends really competitively, and just was surprised we didn't have anything at my university. So about 2 years ago, I started up our esports club, which kind of has turned into club, teams, curriculum. And yeah, we're kind of going full force. I've got a bunch of students, and we're getting ready for the semester, barring COVID outbreaks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I mentioned I went to Campbell University, which isn't too far down the road. And I've been up to UNCW before. So, cool. And I know a lot of those universities are at that step or have taken those steps the past few years, whether it's making more of a casual club, and some of those club teams taking more seriously and trying to compete, whether it's more like on a club v club level or trying to obtain varsity status and all that kind of stuff. And one week we talked with a coach who's been at Marietta College for almost 4 years now. And so he's kind of seen the program develop like that. As far as collegiate esports, I know your background really isn't in the actual like making of teams and stuff like that, but where do you kind of see a lot of our students either just play games to have fun, obviously, but then we also want to create a pipeline for these students if they want to develop themselves, but then also provide an outlet for their academic studies and get scholarships and all that kind of good stuff. So far in your positions and how you've seen everything grown, what kind of either advice would you give to like these middle high school students that want to get involved in collegiate, or where do you see the industry going as a whole when it comes to collegiate esports and video games in college?
I'm very excited for collegiate esports in the way that I'm excited for college football. Like I get excited for the being a part of a university and watching how that university can do. So I'm seeing certain games really rise up, certain teams of ours really rise up, and it's very exciting. So as far as like kids getting into it, I'm having a lot of like freshmen come in now, and they're interested in how do I get involved in a team. And at my university, we're not varsity status. We're not considered varsity. Our teams are club level, but we still do have 6 teams that we put together. So we have tryouts, we have people, I have a team captain for each team, and I kind of have to lead all 6 teams and figure out what tournaments we're going to do, how we're going to fund them and everything. But my advice to kids coming up, depending on what they actually want to do, if you want to get recognized, you have to be competing, and you have to be out there somehow. Just as an example, we competed in the Call of Duty collegiate tournament this past spring, and one of our players got recognized and got recruited to get a free master's degree at another university to play Call of Duty for them. So just being in the tournament scene is really what gets you recognized and how you prepare for that. Obviously getting good at a game, but it's that competitive nature that's how scouts and other people are going to see you and see your team and you playing. So that, my advice of how to get into it, I'm obviously right now, esports is very young at most universities, even the colleges that have the most established varsity teams, it's still very young. So it's a lot easier to get involved than it's going to be in, say, 5 years from now.
Yeah, 100%. Our biggest thing when it comes to Vanta is not only providing them that competitive experience. So another big portion of not just providing the league, like I talked about earlier, is providing the expert coaching. So we have coaches that come on and, similar to what you were talking about, mentor these kids on what does a team captain need to do. Designating a team captain, what do the comp structure need to be like, and that the initial start of how to interact with others, because in most esports, other than like Madden, for example, you're going to have a team of people, whether it's 3v3, 4v4, 6v6, whatever it is. So you're going to have to deal with other people and work together well as a team, because most of the time you don't see people solo carrying teams, especially at the highest level.
No, absolutely. And having a team that works well together beyond just the game will win and lose you games. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like, I think League of Legends, which is one of the most popular esports games, is very team oriented. Yet a lot of people base their rank in solo queue as to how well they're going to perform in a team. And that's completely not the case. And just to give you a real life example of that, I worked for a company, Booz Allen Hamilton, and they're one of the largest consulting firms out there. So one of the things that they do is they develop a lot of like simulations for, so let's say like a pilot, a bunch of air fighters are going to go into and have to like be in a war. We don't just spend a lot of money and time letting them fly around and practice all their communication skills and teamwork, but we have them like do like all kinds of different tasks together so that they can function well as a team. Because like they're all good at flying, but it's the communication and the teamwork is like 80 to 90% of what they need to do. Because we all know they can fly, but they need to learn how to work together. And it's the same thing in esports. Like I know I've got 5 kids on a team that are good, but if they can't function together as a team, if there's like 2 people that want to be hot shots on the team, if there's one person that's toxic, if there's one person that always wants to carry, if there's one person that's too passive and they can't figure out how to communicate properly together, they're going to fail regardless of how well they've ranked in solo queue and how good they are. in fact, I've had players that are low level in solo queue, like in silver, gold in League of Legends, excel and do so well as a team, can play at the highest levels because they're so good at communicating and playing well as a team. That solo queue score doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, exactly. And League being, so we offer League of Legends, Valorant, and Rocket League right now as our 3 main games to compete at. And we see a lot of those kids that may not play that ranked mode as much just because of certain deterrents, such as whether it's parental involvement, just not letting them play the game enough, whether it's not having fun within the ranked experience. Yeah. I know a lot of ranked modes. I'm a big Overwatch player. It could be super toxic and you don't want to play it. Even if you want to get better and play the game, it's just not conducive to the getting better. So the team environment really helps out a lot. As far as developing those skills and becoming a better player. Just kind of piggyback off of, you kind of already talked about a few things. And when it comes to the players, what qualities do you see in some of these players that seem to be some of your top players, like the one that got recruited, that make them a good esports player or even just a good student in general?
So they're not all only about winning and being the best. They're not all about or only about playing with people at their level or better. They're about having fun and they actually enjoy the game and want to play it and practice it and get better at it. They're not in it to this, oh, well, I have to win. We have to win. I've seen some good players come in who are good and very high ranked individually, but they're kind of like, well, I'm better than everyone else on my team. And that attitude right there, before you've even sat down and started, your team's going to do, you guys are not going to win. You're going to do terrible.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, like, you can't have high expectations either. Like, you have to go into tournaments knowing that you might get completely blown away.
Yeah.
Esports is so new, like, we don't know who the good schools are. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few that are consistently pretty good, but there's a lot of upsets, and you just don't know like who people have, and it's just not. It's not like as predicted as like college basketball,
Yeah. It's not, there's
NCAA.
much scouting and
Like, it's just
that's,
not like, you just don't really know who someone's going to get, and how well teams are going to do. I mean,
mhm.
we enter tournaments and sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, we got like 10th place, and sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, we got 256th place. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason for it other than the teams we competed against. There was no way for us to know that, so you can't get frustrated by getting eliminated after the first round. Like, it happens.
Yeah. And then there's also a huge difference. We even see it recently in like the Call of Duty League between they're finally starting, especially with COVID starting to end. They're getting back to some LAN tournaments as opposed to online, and that brings up a lot of not just like ping related like issues as far as that goes,
Sure.
but then also the environment that they have to play around. Whether you're sitting basically across computer to computer against the other player, as opposed to everyone in the same room in your nice comfy chair. In the more controlled environment. So one of our big challenges when it comes to running our leagues and just growing our student base right now is kind of acceptance from parents. So in your experience, whether it comes to your interactions with collegiate students and their parents, or just interactions you've had personally with different people, what would you kind of tell a parent of a gamer to help them understand like the benefits of just gaming in general, but then also the structured components and program of esports?
So this really depends on the age level of the student's parent that I'm talking to, and the approach that the parent has come up to me, how they've approached me, like at what angle. Because there's a couple ways to look at this, but the biggest thing for parents to realize, and that I really talk to a lot, because I actually get phone calls from high school kids' parents right now who are, considering UNCW, asking me about esports and gaming in general. And
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing for me is showing them the money, like saying, hey, there's real money in this. This could really be a job. This can really help future career. There could be a career in this. That stuff really helps settle the mind of parents, saying like, okay, my kid's not just doing nothing, like, just doing something and they have no chance of life. Like, that's one thing that helps ease certain parents. The other thing that helps ease certain parents is letting them know that, hey, this is structured. Your son or daughter could be playing Call of Duty against random people at all hours, non-supervised, with no reflection, or they can be doing it in a supervised environment, having a school super watch them, give them advice on how to not only play and what's too much play, but advice about exercise and sleep and healthy habits and other things like that. And in addition, learning how to communicate with people, learning how to really work together as a team,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very difficult for certain people to, teamwork is like a skill that they say 10,000 hours of practice to get really good at something. Teamwork is the same way. So the more that kid is practicing that skill, the better they're going to do when they go out into corporate or wherever they end up, when they're actually communicating with people, learning how to get along with people, just getting along with teammates, how to, work with them. So there's a lot of skill sets there. But you have to, ease parents into that. And then there's the whole like addiction and violence portion of esports that you have to talk to parents about. I'm finding that less and less. I'm finding it more with older people, not to generalize, but I feel like the maybe 50 or 60 older crowd seems to be more concerned about the violence and addiction thing. I think maybe because when they were growing up, it was the TV and rock and roll was like kind of the bad influence, and now it's gaming. I feel like a lot of younger people kind of understand that those myths have been debunked,
Mm-hmm.
that no, you're not going to become like a violent person because you're playing Grand Theft Auto or whatever.
Yeah.
But just explaining that all sports have a competitive nature. In football, you're you are tackling someone. In wrestling, you're hurting someone. In boxing, you're literally punching someone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. Like I and Muay Thai, and I know like how to we were trying to hurt someone. So, you know, we're not really trying to hurt someone. We're having fun playing a video game. And yes, sometimes there's fake shooting and fake things, but no research has shown that that is part of it. And then you have the whole like addiction thing, which I come at parents and I have to explain to them that yes, video games can be addictive, but so can exercising.
Reading.
So reading can actually be addicting. In fact, if you have you watched Disney's Beauty and the Beast?
I've seen it before. Yeah, it's been a while.
So in the beginning, Belle is reading a book.
Yeah.
And she's walking through the town, and the whole town is singing like this crazy like woman reading a book, like she needs to get married and have a husband. And like that, we actually used to think that if people would read for fun, they would stop being like a human, and they would just want to read all the time, and they neglect like their duties, whatever that happened to be, work or marriage or whatever they like. That was our thought process, and we found like that's not the case. And yes, everything can become addicting, and yes, there's a percentage of people that get addicted to soda, water, exercise, reading, whatever it happens to be, and that percentage of people can also be addicted to video games, but it's a small percentage, and that's just the nature of life. We can't tell people you can't do anything because you might get addicted to it. Yeah. So it depends on who I'm talking to there and what their concerns really are. But being aware of what the research really says, being able to just send them an email with research studies can help ease their mind. Like not like article on Washington Post, but like actual research study that can help ease their minds about what's really happening. So I've tended to kind of like broken down and then talk about like students, how it can benefit STEM and, feeling like a sense of belonging at school and just different things like that really can help out. But I do find a lot of parents of gamers know all of this.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that is obviously the pushback of the student or child being like, hey, this is really fun. And this is why it's good, because they want to do it. So then they find out their own research. I mean, especially with Google, I mean, you got one of these that can pretty much do whatever you want it to do.
I feel like it's a lot of people who don't have kids involved in that community that are more concerned about it. At least what I experience at the university level, people who because I've ran into people that are very against, implementing any kind of video game esports within a university setting, but they're not people that have or are in that community or have kids in that community. They're people outside the community just looking in and saying, we don't like this. And in fact, a lot of the parents who have kids in the community are like, they know all the benefits. They're like, yeah, my son or daughter now has friends, now has this and stuff they didn't have maybe before this.
Yeah. And that's something that I've seen change, like you said, over time. I mean, when I was a kid, my parents were pretty understanding for the most part, as long as my homework was done and I was getting good grades. There wasn't a reason for them to yell at me. They were like, do what you want. Obviously, they wanted me to do certain things like more like the traditional sports or stuff like that. Sure. But getting outside the house and seeing sunshine and touching grass, so to speak. But it's definitely, I think it's definitely evolving, but definitely still something that
and all that stuff is great too. Like I still want kids to play sports and go outside and do it. Like it's all about balance and moderation. And I try to explain that to parents that like, no, if my kid was like, hey, I just want to play Fortnite he's 10 years old and he was like, that's all I want to do. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
He's gonna play soccer or something. He's whatever he wants. I mean, what he chooses, but like, he's going to do, there's a balance. But if he was just like, look, I just want to play soccer 24/7, I'd be like, no, it's not there's nothing they can do 24/7. That you have to do other things in life. And that's part of it.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, when it comes to structure, that word's like really important in Vanta. And I would say one of our pillars of our programming is making sure that there's structure. So we have moderators along with coaches attending each practice so that the coaches can focus on coaching. And then if there is any child bickering or issues that arise, that the moderator can help with that. And then also, not that they are at the level of collegiate or professional where they might have mental health coaches or nutritionists and stuff like that. But we can still
mental health coaches in the collegiate scene. Yeah,
yeah, it's something that's needed.
The pro teams just now have it.
Exactly. Something that's definitely needed, but they don't have that like more specialized, more the generalist coach. But you can still instill those qualities in the students and try and make it structured time so that for these 2 hours they're working on their teamwork, they're working on the game mechanics, and they're not just, like you said, logging into GTA and just messing around.
Sure,
and more of the unstructured environment, of course. For those that want to, other than like playing a collegiate, for those that want to make more of esports a career, whether it's more the lines like you were talking about, like game development or finding ways to combine business with gaming development. And then obviously esports is growing as a business. So then there's business outlets as well. For people that want to get, and students and of our Vanta staff that want to get more plugged into esports as a career, do you have any kind of advice or tips for them?
Yeah. So my advice is get involved. Like esports is one of those fields where we want to hire people that can do it. Like you want to hire someone that is a nice person and good personality and all that stuff that every job wants, right? There's like things that every single job wants.
Yeah.
Someone who's a team player, good communicator, friendly, all that great stuff. But if you want to get into esports, get involved, especially for students. Like college is the perfect time. Or, I mean, high school will be when high schools and middle schools get more esports stuff. But, college is a time where you're actually an adult. So it's the perfect time to get involved with either your esports club or your esports team. Figure out, like, what is it you like about the industry. So, if you're really, really, really into streaming, like, start streaming figure out how to stream for your university or do that yourself or stream some of your university tournaments so that you have something to actually put on your resume. You might also want to consider majors like broadcasting. If you're interested in game development, maybe you're interested in programming or some game design major or something along those lines, computer science or whatever. But you kind of have to figure out where you fit in. Maybe you're like a biology major, but you're interested in, bio is like my thing, but maybe I do want a career in esports, but that's when you get involved in your club or your school, but you have to participate. And get involved means like being the streamer or setting up the events or something you can actually put on your resume, not just like, oh yeah, I'm in the club, like doing something. It's one of the reasons we started the curriculum. Now our curriculum is just a certificate. It's not like a degree. You can't get a degree at esports at my university, but you can take a few classes and get a certificate. And what that does, it exposes you to all those facets in the industry, but it forces you to do real projects so that you actually have something for your resume. So that you can go in and say, well, I was a business major, finance major, but I've also like done these 10 things in the industry. I actually have an esports portfolio. That's what they develop in my certificate. They develop a portfolio so they can be prepared for interviews and have something to show clients and understand like how do you put together a tournament or what's happening in the industry or whatever facet of the industry they're really interested in.
Yeah.
Whether that's gaming or esports, but yeah, you just have to get involved. It's all about experience. So the more experience, like I force the kids, they have to get an internship in our certificate and they have to do some kind of big significant project in each class so that they have something for a portfolio. It's all about what you can show, what you can do during that interview that's going to get it for you.
Yeah. Can you kind of give I'm curious. So can you give me like an example, like a project that you've seen that really impressed you or some projects
there's tons. I mean, just the students putting together like some of the promo videos my students have put together have blown me away. Like beyond like what I would expect to see, like total professional level that just like some of the students, just their voices, they're naturally like could be an announcer for like any sport. Like they just have that. Whatever it is about their voice, they just sound like, oh my goodness, like you just have the voice that, that I don't know how to explain it, but when you hear it, like they just have it. And some of them are just really good at being a communicator or standing out in a crowd, like voicing. They're not held back. They're not afraid to voice their opinion. Like they're going to be like the manager. Like they're good at taking tasks. They're good at getting projects done, like following through with things. And they don't I give them a project and they follow through with it and can do it. And I don't have to micromanage that person. They're going to stand out when they have on their resume, oh yeah, I helped build 5 tournaments and put them on. They're going to be able to really talk through the interview about what they actually specifically did for the tournament and how they did it. Like, it's not just like, oh, I was there watching everyone set up. They did a lot of stuff, So there's been a lot of cool stuff that my students have done. And that's like building or creating, more with like the promo videos and stuff. But they've just done a lot of other things, like just learning and being able to explain the industry as it is, because it's a little confusing. I find that a lot of the students, they know everything about like the games and the technology, but they don't know a lot about like how to build a streaming setup, or how do you really put on a show? Like, what are components of a show, or how do you write like a story, or they don't necessarily understand how the industry is comprised, and sometimes are a little unsure of themselves. And that's just because they're young and don't have a work experience and haven't been out there yet. So I think that there are things that even my students who are very knowledgeable about everything esports are like, wow, I'm actually learning a lot from this.
Yeah, awesome. When it comes to plugging those students in or them getting them experience, what kind of, either is it like a certain connections that you've built over time, or does it come to them just obviously just doing the research to figure out like what kind of internship they want, and reaching out to the certain parties, or like for people that are wanting to get plugged in, like you say, where do you suggest them start looking?
It's everything. So it's a little bit of everything. It's people either have come to us, come to UNCW Esports. Maybe if a student, sometimes it's more easy for students just to intern with us. Like I have like positions available each semester that I need at UNCW Esports. So I have a certain amount of positions available, and it also depends like what the student's interested in. I had a student internship at a gaming cryptocurrency company because he's really interested in NFTs and crypto. And he got an internship at a gaming company teaching them about the gaming aspect of, and they're teaching him about the crypto. So it's really about like, what is the student, what are their goals? What do they want to do? I have a student that really wants to be in collegiate esports. So she's been helping, she actually helped me build UNCW Esports. And now she's interning at another school because I want her to have something else on her resume besides just us. Yeah. So I'm having her do her internship somewhere else. So like so she has multiple universities on her resume to show she's really done something. So it's all about, I try to work with the students to figure out what do they want to do and guide them. But it's, do they want an online internship? Do they want to be somewhere? With COVID, that's been a little tricky. I've also found that the big internships in the industry are extremely competitive.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I know a few, like, so you got obviously the big gaming companies. So you're about to probably start to say Blizzard. And then you got like the content creation teams, so like Envy, 100 Thieves.
Yeah. Anything they're offering is so competitive right now that it's, Blizzard put up this like dream job for anyone interested in esports it was for this summer. And they had to take the job down after like half a day, because they had too many applicants. They had so many applicants. They're like, there was a message on the website, like, we're sorry, we have to take this down. And I realized Blizzard's going through their stuff right now or whatever. But, it just goes to show, like, that's just an example of when something like amazing does come up, like there's a lot of people trying to get involved.
Yeah, I know Epic Games, which is right here in Cary. Yeah. Right near here, their HQ's right in. You wouldn't think it's right there, but it's right there. And I know they always have stuff going on over there, posting jobs, whether it's within more of the business operations or more of the hardcore game development, and then also internships. So there's definitely a want and a need, I think, for people wanting to get into the industry. And obviously, like you said, I think getting involved is the biggest step. As far as if you want to make it more than just kind of like a passion project when it comes to esports.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as we'll kind of go back to like the team aspect, managing a team and that kind of stuff when it comes to collegiate real quick, before we get towards our end. When it comes to either the curriculum you build or the skills that you work on. So I know obviously you may not have like a full plan for a certain semester or whatever, but what are some like tips for our coaches basically is what I'm getting at. Is there certain practices that you have really like blown you out of the water that has made a really big impact with your teams? I know when we talk with Marietta College's coach, he said that he's starting to institute some, like we're talking about mental health, he's starting to institute some mental health practices outside the game to help his players. Is there anything that you've done or your players have done that have made them better players within the games?
Sure. So, one of the first big challenges of, you know, when I first started this, it was like I just had a bunch of students that wanted to play, and I had to figure out like from square one how to. I had like three enough students for three League of Legends teams. So how do I put them together? It's really you have to talk to each student and find out more than their rank, what their goals and ambitions are. Coming in with a plan, like what tournaments are we competing in? What are our expectations for our team? You can't just go and compete in all the big tournaments, because if your team's not good, you're gonna get destroyed, and it's just a low blow to your teams for no reason. Like, don't purposely say to your team, well, we're not going to compete in the League of Legends collegiate scene. That we're going to compete in like a few off tournaments this year. I think that learning how to manage that, or even going out and scrimming teams that are, more your ability, even if that's not at the collegiate level. Like, we've scrimmed high school teams, like just partnering with the local high schools, and my students love like being able to talk, because the high school kids are like, whoa, this is like an esports person on a team at the college level. And my students love having that, like someone look up to them and being able to give them advice and things like that. So that's really helped. Things that have helped our team before the semester starts, having a practice schedule and saying, if you're committing to being on the team, here are your expectations as a player. Like, expectations as far as like toxicity, like ethics, like what are your expectations for your university and being on a team? What do you actually get? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? What's the time commitment? Like, being upfront with all the students, because if they just come on and they're not sure what it is, and then all of a sudden you're like, you're going to practice twice a week, and they're like, well, I work those nights, so I can't do it. Figuring all that stuff out ahead of time significantly helps. But one of the big things that I'm starting to get into, that we started talking about last year, but we couldn't necessarily do because of COVID. Our university gym was closed, was the exercise and fitness aspect of esports. Because it's a part of, I'm really big into health, exercise, and fitness. So getting my students involved in that and teaching them the basics of like healthy habits is really important. We talk a lot about toxicity, how to avoid toxic people, what to do, how to, best practices for when you're home, when you're alone, how to not to feel bad, all that stuff, which is part of the mental game of it. But yeah, all that basic stuff is stuff that as programs go, they're going to all start to do.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. So as far as wrapping this up, I'm going to give you an opportunity to I know we talked about UNCW, and you guys got a great certificate program, and we talked about what that can offer students, but just give you an opportunity to once again plug you for a little bit, so that if any of our, whether it's coaches that are interested in maybe even helping out with your teams, or our staff or students that might be interested in the area, to come on campus and see what you guys are all about, just give me a little bit of how they can connect with you and that kind of stuff.
Sure. So anyone can find me, raypastore.com. If you just Google me, there's like a bazillion sites that'll come up with my contact information, because I'm all over the web, YouTube, Twitter, everything. So it's really easy to find.
We can track you down.
But or even uncw.edu/esports, or just type Google UNCW esports, we come up. But what we're doing is we have a club. We have over 350 students in our club. We have 6 teams in League of Legends, Rocket League, Valorant, Overwatch, Smash, and Call of Duty. We are actively recruiting students for those teams, because if we have enough students for one team, we start to recruit for a B team. And B team doesn't mean bad. It's just the next team.
Yeah.
And then when we have students interested in a new game, so if anyone's interested in starting up like NBA 2K or Madden or whatever it happens to be, we get that's awesome. Like, we'll definitely, if we have enough interest, if students are interested in those games, like, we will absolutely start a team in them.
Yeah.
We'll find it with the first step is finding a team captain and then starting to recruit all the players and put everything together. But, and that's a big piece of advice for schools starting an esports program is, don't just tell the students what the game is and what you guys are going to do. Like, make sure you know your students, because you may love League of Legends like I do, but none of your students might play it. I mean, a small percentage, more students might play Valorant or CSGO or whatever it is, Overwatch, Rocket League, whatever. You don't know. Like, we have a very healthy percentage of students that play Smash Brothers at our university. We have a big Smash Brothers scene. So that was really where we started and how we started putting things together. We have, in fact, pretty much all of our in-house tournaments that we have, which we try to have two per semester, like in-house tournaments. We have about 120 competitors at them. But our big game that we play during those is Smash. And then we have other like offshoot like things happening at the same time, like the League of Legends team will be playing and stuff like that. But it's a Smash tournament because that's what the students want to do. And it's a better in-house tournament game because it doesn't involve teams. It's one player. Games are quick. Like, it's a good tournament game. So, you have to start to think about all that stuff. So, that's what we built. We built in-house tournaments. We built 6 teams. We built a club. We built a curriculum. And we're that's, I don't want my school to just give us like $6 million to build this huge arena and teams and all this stuff and say, but you have to be making money in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, because how are you making that money? And that's a lot of pressure. I would rather grow organically and, be able to really do like what our university is, what our students want to do. And making sure that my students are involved in every step of the process has been a big thing as well. So,
Awesome.
it's all about just making sure we're planning well and doing it correctly, which I think a lot of schools are all doing it correctly. I think each one has their different path. I know lots of the coaches and other people out there in the collegiate scene, we all kind of know each other. So it's not too big of a mystery who we all are. We all meet monthly at, Dell has a collegiate meeting each month, Dell Alienware, that pretty much all the collegiate coaches or directors go to. So we all kind of see each other monthly. So we all know each other. We're all on the same Discord and stuff like that. So, just communicating, and we share our best practices because all of us are in the same position. We're all trying to make this a thing and make this happen. I mean, we're in the wild west of esports right now. We know what this is going to look like in 5 years, but I can tell you that seeing the middle school, seeing my kids are in elementary school, seeing them and their friends, seeing the middle school kids and the engagement that esports has, and even me seeing like the upcoming freshmen versus the outgoing seniors, it's a big difference in what's coming. So like, it's kind of like jump on ship now and get going, because this is going to be a pretty crazy, interesting thing as time goes on to see how it really, happens.
100%. And we're excited as well at Vanta to start our programs and make sure our programs are in place so that those kids that you talked about that are in the elementary and middle school age, that they have a place to go to, similar to like when some kids played Little League baseball growing up and think about that fondly. We want them to think about Vanta fondly as they move through high school esports into collegiate esports and be like, man, I wish I was playing at Vanta again. And I miss all my friends from Vanta.